Greetings, my friend. The subject of my presentation today is Donald Trump. Now, we know that he's been given quite a rough time in the media. Evening humorists have been making fun of him, cartoons, and also there's a lot of people afraid of him, afraid of some of the decisions that he either has made or might made. So within that whole morass, I would think that I want to say a couple things. And then what I say comes from my understanding of creation. My understanding of creation is that it's organic. And because it is organic, everything is interconnected and interrelated. Everything is included, everything belongs. Now with that in mind, I will say this, that my understanding of interconnected, interrelated, and also going on the faith in the words of Jesus, who said, love one another as I have loved you, I want to say very clearly that I do not intend to get caught up in the hysteria about him. I think a lot of good trees are being spent on writing up about him where there's no real need for it. There's just a lot of things that people are scapegoating him because they don't really know him. Now don't get me wrong, I know as well as you do that some of the things he said, some of the things he plans to do, some of his choices and policies, they do create a negative image of him in the minds of many. And also the other thing, of course, is it's creating a lot of fear. A lot of fear, and people are starting to be afraid of the future because of what is happening as a result of his becoming a president. So there's only a couple things that I want to say about Trump. I see ourselves as relational. I am related to every human being on planet Earth. I'm related to the Earth, Mother Earth. I am related and connected to all other life forms here on planet Earth. And so when I look at the human race, I see the family. The great family of God, the great family of humanity, where we're all one, we all belong, and we're all called to be compassionate, to be lovers, and non-judgmental people. And with that in mind, I can honestly say that I see Trump as my brother. He is my brother, and since Jesus said, love one another as I've loved you, I really don't have any choice. I really don't. I have no choice but to see him as my brother and to love him as such. Now, this doesn't mean that I need to be blind to what his policies are, his speeches, and all those kind of things. I can criticize those, but criticizing them using the facts. What are the true facts here? And only then to criticize, or do critical thinking, as I prefer to call it. Now, once I've said that, I would say to you that what can we do? I think one thing we can do, and many are doing it, is peaceful protests. Peaceful protests where it's motivated by love of the people, love of the country, motivated by caring and compassion. I think that's number one. What kind of protests are we doing? They must not be cruel or violent or scapegoating. Those don't belong in a peaceful protest. The second thing I can do for him is to pray for him. He is my brother. He is a child of God, son of God, whatever term you prefer. And so I pray, and I simply pray that God will act in his mind and his heart in whatever way can bring him into a line with choosing to do the will of God, to make choices that are for the common good, to demonstrate compassion and social justice for all of the people. And so it's really, I know that the bottom line is it's only the Spirit of God, the grace of God, which can make change his mind and his heart and open him up perhaps to a different worldview than the one he's carrying at the present time. So I think that's a big part of this. It's a big part of it. And I think for us to maybe be more gentle ourselves, because it could be that being harsh with him is because we're harsh with ourselves or we're harsh with our neighbor. To be very careful that a religion which says, judge not, that we are religious people on Sunday for an hour, but the rest of the week we judge or make fun of and really turn him into a buffoon. And that's really not Christian. Not at all. That's very, very un-Christian. And it's not up to us to judge on whether or not he's a Christian. That's not up to us. That's between himself and his God, and however he understands the word God. And it may be quite different than ours. But the thing I think we have to be careful of is that when we rush to judgment, when we are punitive, or we make fun of him, then in a great way we are revealing how we feel about ourselves. And that may be a hard pill to swallow. Hard pill to swallow. That I'm really revealing who I am by the things I say about Trump. And people who hear me will know exactly what's happening. They will know that we are offering self-disclosure and that we're going to have to take a quick look at it. And I think that's particularly true for those people who on this Wednesday, Ash Wednesday, are beginning Lent. This becomes a real spiritual time if we will reflect on our attitudes, our thoughts, our judgments, our criticisms, our failure to see him as our brother. I think if some of this surfaces from within ourselves, then it can be for us a time of conversion. A time of conversion where we get healing in our mind and heart and soul. And we become more and more and more like St. Francis of Assisi, who certainly was a great example to the people of his time, even today. A man who saw everybody as his brother. He saw the birds as brothers and sisters. Even death itself was called sister death. So we see a man who just saw everything in terms of relationships. Everything was relational. And that's really what we're aimed when we are called, as St. Paul said, to put on the mind of Christ. Put on the mind of Christ. And of course we have to know what the mind of Christ was, if we have any intention to put on the mind of Christ. If we don't know what the mind of Christ is, then we'll have a hard time putting it on. But I think that's the big call for Lent, is to know more intimately, have better knowledge, a clearer picture of what is the mind of Christ. And knowing then the mind of Christ, we then open ourselves up to the Spirit, to the grace of God, so that we too can put on the mind of Christ. If you do it, I do it, if millions of people throughout the world would do it, our world would be changed immensely, and changed for the better. And Trump then can very well have been a very important person in our conversion. Isn't that ironic? That Trump could very well be the one who helps us to grow and be transformed into a more compassionate human being. That's really ironic in my mind, but it won't happen unless we, with the grace of God, make it happen. So good luck during Lent.